So verbs with respect to amount of letters. Right. So you have the ثلاثي, right? We talked about last week, and then you also have rubai, right? Now these break up into two each, right? In some cases, so when we talk about, so you will have ثلاثي مجرد and ثلاثي مزيد فيه. Mujarrad means that in the madi of that verb, in the past tense of that verb, there are no extra letters, meaning there's only three letters in the madi, right? Only three letters in the madi. That's it, right? And mazid fi, right? Mazid fi would be the opposite of that. So same thing here. You have mujarrad, and you also have mazid fi right here. So let me give you an example. So we've been dealing with only mujarrad up until now. So an example of this would be like, right? So let's take sami'a, right? This is an example of a mujarrad verb. Why? Because the madi, a thulathi mujarrad specifically, right? Thulathi mujarrad, right? So you should probably make that connection, that thulathi mujarrad, right? And that's because the madi only has three letters. Now, you also have other verbs sharing the same root letters as sami'a as well, right? But they have extra letters in them in their madi, right? For example, you might have read in the Quran or in a hadith the word istama'a, right? Istama'a. So note that there are two extra letters here. What the heck did I just do? Excuse me. All right, there's two extra letters right here. This alif and the ta right here. These are two extra letters, and we call these two mazid fi letters, right? Mazid fi. Mazid like from ziyada, right? Extra letters, right? So extra. So this is why, and this is madi, by the way. This is madi, right? Past tense. So this is why this is classified as mazid fi, because in the madi of this very verb, we have extra letters that are introduced, and there are different, you can say patterns, right? Different amounts of in both mujarrad and mazid fi. So taking this a little further, right? This gets so massive. All right. Okay. Taking this concept a little further and talking about number of patterns. Number of patterns. So in mujarrad, in thulathi mujarrad, I should say here specifically, you will have a total of 6 patterns, right? 6 patterns. And in mazid fi, thulathi mazid fi, you will have, I think it's about what, 13 or 12, something. It's either 12 or 13, right? So right now, or what we discussed last week were these 6 patterns, right? So anything in thulathi mujarrad is going to by default fall within these 6 patterns, and that's it. Those are your only options. Okay. What are those 6 patterns, right? Those 6 patterns are this. So you have nasara yansuru. You know what? Let's down. Give us some space. So take a look at the harakat, because that's like the main bit for these patterns. Nasara yansuru, daraba, yadribu, sami'a yasma'u, fataha yaftahu, karuma يكرم. And then finally, حسب يحسب. Right. So note that in some cases, you will have all fathas across the Madi, right? For example, Nasara has fatha on each of the letters, but the Mudari has some dhammas in the Ain al-Kalima, right? And so these are all, any thulathi mujarrad fi'l that you have will fall within these patterns, right? So for example, let's take any example. Let's take the verb sakata, right? Sakata has a mudari of yaskutu, right? So if I were trying to map which pattern this falls under, right? This would be under the first one, nasara yansuru, right? Sakata yaskutu, nasara yansuru, right? Pretty, I think, self-explanatory, that one. Let's take another one. Uh, so for example, we have the verb jalaba, which means to like pull, yajlibu. So jalaba, yajlibu, right? Again, this one also will basically map itself out to this one right here, daraba yadribu, and so on. You can have you can bring out any thulathi mujarrad verb, and it's going to, by definition, fall within any of these six, right? This is where this is what I was trying to talk about last week. Oh, excuse me. Yes. Okay. Does that make sense so far, guys? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I'm right here. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna stop the share just for a second. All right. And I'm gonna stop the screen thing as well. Okay. What I want to do is I want to go to the browser and show you. I think that's what we were trying to do last time, but I couldn't do it because I didn't have the Arabic keyboard downloaded on this laptop. So I'm gonna go to the browser and show a sample of this, how this would work, right? How you would go about figuring this out. Okay. Browser. Okay, my screen should be visible. Yes, it is. Okay, so this is the website I was talking about last time, ejtal.net, EJTAAL.net. And I believe I posted the link to this website on the Canvas, right? If you go to your Canvas and go all the way down right here, so you should see the link for this right here in week 12, which was last week, right? So when you come here, you'll just click on this first one right here. Feel free to explore this stuff down here as well, but this is what you pretty much you use. And then now this is the Hanswehr dictionary. I talked about the dark history of this dictionary. I don't know if you guys remember. It had to do with the Nazis and the Germans. But as I mentioned, when it comes to Arabic to English dictionaries, it's really, really hard to beat this one. There's only one more dictionary which actually beats it in terms of status, and that one is called Lane's Lexicon, and it's funny enough right down here. Lane's Lexicon is also available for you at your fingertip right here underneath Hanswehr. So both of these, Lane's lexicon is typically for like a really detailed analysis. If I'm trying to check like a word, really drilling down into the word and scanning a deeper meaning. But a quick and dirty way to figure out anything is typically through this first one, Hanswehr, right? So now why are we doing this? What I'm trying to do, the exercise we're trying to do is that if I have a given verb how do I figure out what pattern from the Thalathi Mujarrad, the 6 patterns that we have, how do I figure out which pattern it falls under, right? So we'll use the search up here at the top. And okay, so why doesn't somebody give me like a verb, some different verb? Anybody? Thalathi Mujarrad verb.
قرأ.
Sorry, I can't hear you. But okay, fine. I'll pick out one on my own, and I'm going to put in. So you have to be careful here. When you put in any word here, note what it says. It says enter the root letters, right? So by definition, you have to enter only the root letters. If you have like a longer word, you're gonna have to figure out which letters are the root letters, and then you have to enter that in, right? We'll see more examples of this later, but for the time being, let's take غسل. Okay, right, and where did it go? Right here. So غسل is right here. Okay, so the first part, this represents the Madi, right? The English, excuse me. The English right here, that represents the Madi, and then this I is actually a shorthand to tell you what the Mudari is, right? So this tells me that the Madi has fathas across, غسل, and then this tells me that the Ainul Kalima in Mudari, the Ainul Kalima in a Mudari has a kasra, right? So hence it will be غسل يغسل, غسل يغسل. Well, from the patterns that I showed you a few minutes ago, غسل يغسل corresponds to the bab ضرب يضرب. Okay, so this is how you'd go. Now, so I means kasra on the ainul kalima in mudari, right? You means a dhamma, okay? And then if there's an A here, that means a fatha, right? So within, like just by giving you these 3 letters, you're able to solve what the mudari is going to look like for this verb, right? Because he already gave you the madi, right? Now the mudari, the only thing that's going to change is the ainul kalima, right? What's the haraka going to be on the ainul kalima? That's it. So let's take another example. So that's one example. Let's take another example. Let's say, for example,
فتح
huh?
فتح.
Fataha is one of the, it's already one of the mujarrad patterns. So I'm not trying
oh,
we're trying to match. So I'll take
سمع.
same thing with Samira, same problem. Karuba. Let's take Karuba. Okay. So Karuba. Okay, dogs. Right. So okay. Okay, so there's I guess there's different variations of this word, but this is Karaba, right? So I can see right off the bat that this has all fathas. Karaba has fathas, and then it has a U. So when you see the U right there, that means that there is a dhamma on the ainul kalima in mudari. So that would mean this is Karaba yakrubu, corresponding to from the abwab of the mujarrad nasara yansuru, right? Is this, guys, is this, besides Zayan, is this making sense, what we're trying to accomplish here?
Yes, it's still kind of new, but I'm understanding.
Okay, great, great. Sounds good. All right. So this is the best way to go about doing this, right? I believe if you see in Lane's lexicon, right? Karaba. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's easier to figure this out actually on Hanswehr, right? So this would be your best bet. Okay. So this was review up until or for last week's stuff and the exercise which we were not able to get done, right? Now I'm going to transition over to the slides for today's dars. You can find them on Canvas, but if you for the time being, I guess you can just follow my screen with whatever I'm going to be showing. Okay. Okay. All right. So up until now, we've discussed verbs. Now, what's going to happen is we're going to transition into nouns. Now, I'm crossing my fingers and I'm hoping you've done some of this with Sheikh Panjbaya, so it should sound like review, but I'm gonna go over it anyways, just to make sure we've covered our bases here. So when it comes to asma, when it comes to nouns, there are three types of nouns. There's what we call jamid, masdar, and mushtaq. Does this ring a bell for anybody here?
Yeah, we did this on Tuesday.
Really?
We
Excellent.
started it.
Okay, okay. Excellent. So, I'll go over it once, just sharing my screen, and if it sounds boring or repetitive, just tell me to stop. Okay, where did it go? Start it. Okay.
Could you also explain how that ties into sarf, like how we'll use it in this class?
You're talking about the mushtaqat and stuff?
Yes, please.
Asma? Yes, yes, yeah, I will, definitely. Okay. Okay, so now transitioning to nouns, right? Asma. So we said that you have your three types, masdar, mushtaq, and then finally jamid, right? So masdar, we call this, you can say it's called a verbal noun. Okay, now I hate this term because it really doesn't explain what its role is, right? You kind of understand it later on, but this does a terrible job of like telling you what it means, right? Nobody knows what the heck a verbal noun is. Okay. For our discussion right now, it is something that so it is something that other words are derived from. Other words are extracted from, right? So it's basically the origin, right? So this is a masdar, right? And from this origin, you're able to extract other words, right? It's basically like the roots of a tree, and then other things are like the branches, right? So this is some X, right? Something else. So this is the origin, and something other words are derived from it, right? And I'll show you exactly what I mean after I talk about mushtaq. And mushtaq is the derived noun, right? Something that has been derived from a masdar, right? An example of this. So let's take the example of so qital, right? Qital, right? Qital means fighting, right? Now this is a masdar here, right? So this verb right here, this is a masdar, right? Why is it a masdar? Because there are words that are derived from this. For example, the word muqatil is derived from qital, meaning it comes from that. Muqatil, which means fighter, right? That's derived from qital. Another one, for example, so this is muqatil. Muqatal with the fatha, right? So the only difference between the one on top and the one below is actually this one has a kasra and this one has a fatha right there, right? This one means the one fought, meaning the one who was fought against, right? Both of these words, they are derived from the word qital, right? So that's why qital is the masdar, it's the origin, and these are the derived, right? So maybe just make it right like that. Okay. Okay, so that is what a masdar is, and that is also what the mushtaq is being derived from a masdar, right? So the mushtaq returns or it takes its legitimacy from a masdar. Jamid is when a noun is neither. Neither is it being derived from, nor is it derived, right? It's just like, for example, the word faras, right? Horse, in the meaning of horse. Farasun, right? It's what we call jamid. There's nothing being derived from this, right? So it cannot be masdar or mushtaq, and neither is it derived from anything else either, right? So that's pretty much a rundown on the three types of asma. So any ism that you have will fall under these three categories, right? For the next couple of lessons, the main one we're gonna be discussing is gonna be mushtaq, right? And the reason we're gonna be doing that is okay. So now I can probably answer Ola's question, how this ties into all of this ties into sarf. So number one, I need to clear out the misconception that a lot of people have this misconception that sarf deals with verbs only. This is a very big misconception. Sarf does not deal with verbs only. Sarf deals with the changing of patterns, whether it's across asma or whether it's across af'al, right? It just so happens that a lot of patterns you study have a lot of verbs in them, but that doesn't mean that sarf only deals with af'al or verbs. Sarf deals with more than just verbs, right? It deals with asma because you have asma that will have patterns, right? Sarf is basically the science of understanding. There's a proper definition at the beginning of, I think, the slides, like way back. But basically, you're just trying to understand how different words and their patterns are changing, right? Given different circumstances. That's what sarf is, right? So we will see right now that under different circumstances, we will see the asma, they will change their forms, right, accordingly. Okay. Running out of time. Okay, so yeah, we have 10 minutes. So that's kind of how this ties in with what's your name, with sarf. Okay, folks. All right. So back to this right here. So these are your three types of asma. We just talked about what a mushtaq is, what a masdar is, and what a jamid type of ism is, right? Now we're going to be talking about mushtaqat, those words that are derived. Not derived from, but those words that are derived. And this is the list. Now you will see, give or take, pretty much this list is, I would say, almost universal. It's pretty much everywhere. There are some people, just like in fiqh, you have ikhtilaf. Anytime you study any science deeply, there's bound to be ikhtilaf. So there's also ikhtilaf in sarf as well. And so plus or minus, this is what you will see anywhere. So types of mushtaqat, these are your 6 mushtaqat the 6 derived nouns that you're gonna be studying, right? Ismul fa'il, so watch my cursor, how I'm moving, because we're gonna go, I think, in that very order. Ismul fa'il, ismul maf'ul, ismul dharf, ismul ala, ismul tafdil, and sifa mushabbaha, right? So these are your 6 that we're gonna be studying. What are you trying to accomplish with these, right? So I want to jump into kind of the philosophy or the reasoning of this, right? At the end of the day, these asma that we have in front of us, these 6 mushtaqat, what are you trying to accomplish? Okay, what you're trying to accomplish with these 6 is you are trying to standardize meaning. So if I have, for example, the word nasara, so to say the one who helped. So nasara means he helped, right? But how do I say the one who helped, right? So how can I standardize this process of saying the one who does any action? I can make the one who does a pattern on its own, right? And that's what we call ismul fa'il. So nasirun means the one who helped, right? And now I can take this pattern of nasirun, which the pattern is actually fa'ilun, and apply it to any fi'l, and it will mean the same darn thing, right? So for example, sami'un, right? Someone who hears. Fatihun, one who opens. Katibun, one who writes, etc., etc., etc. Basically, I can take any fi'l and put it on that pattern, of fa'ilun, and it will mean the person who does action X, right? And so this is the logic behind all of these six, right? We are trying to standardize the process of giving meaning through a certain pattern, right? Once you have the benefit, what's the benefit of this? And this is actually why Arabic is so special. Arabic also, Hebrew has a very similar structure as well. So the reason why it's so special is because you can basically figure out most of the meanings of Arabic words if you know like the pattern, right? If you know the pattern for something, that gives you a really good insight or clue as to what the word actually means, right? So if I know though, if there's a verb like for example, ghasidun, right? Let's assume I don't know what the heck this word means, but because I know it's on the pattern of fa'ilun, I already know it means somebody who does ghusl, right? Somebody who's doing the action of ghasala, right? So even without knowing the verb, I already have some hints and insights as to what this word means, right? And so this is why Arabic is also a very algorithmic language based off of patterns.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Yeah.
If we like place every verb in that pattern, what type of hint, like what hints do we get to identify like what that verb is, if that makes sense? Like if it's all the same pattern, like what's the hint, if that makes sense?
Okay. So
I don't know if that made sense.
yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. The thing is, once you understand that this word is on the pattern of fa'ilun, for example, that at the very least tells you that you know, given the root letters, you'll be able to solve the rest, right? So for example, ghasilun, the pattern means the person doing ghusl. Meaning, if I know just what the root letters of ghasala mean, right, which means to wash, then I know what ghaslun means, right? It would mean the one who is washing, right? So it reduces the amount of effort required to fully grasp the meaning of a word, right? If that makes sense.
Okay, so based off of the root letters.
Yeah. So
Okay.
so once you get the root letters, combining the knowledge of the meaning of the root letter and combining the knowledge of the meaning of the pattern, right? That will give you the full meaning of the word without you needing to separately go and look up the word ghasilun on its own, right? So this is this is just one type of hint and pattern. There's many patterns and hints actually. And that's kind of, this is one of the main reasons why studying the grammar of any language is so important, because grammar endows you or gives you shortcuts by which you can understand a language in the most efficient way possible, right? If you don't know these shortcuts, you're working extra to figure out what that means, right? And that translates into slower reading times, slower writing times, all of that comprehension is slow because you have not actually understood how the language works, right? Anyways, what I'll do, I think this is a good point to stop and jump into the next meeting room, since this is going to end in about, what, 3 minutes? So we'll stop here. The other link is also in Canvas under meeting 2. So I'll see you guys there in about like a minute or two. All right.